I ran into an experience this last week that I have not experienced for probably a good 10 years. And I took some photos and I put a little thing together. So I want to share my screen here. So I'm going to kind of exit out of this. So I hopefully we don't lose you here. Guess what happened to Cindy? So what I did is I took some photos and I thought I'd share with you how I fixed this. And like I said, this is the first time in probably 10 years that I have had a problem with the short batting. But the main reason I had the problem is that I didn't measure well. So my quilt was actually like 88 inches long. My batting was 90 inches, and it didn't even register in my brain that I needed to, measure my batting out differently. So it was like 2 yards by the 99 or the 90 inches, and I should have done the 90 inches by the 90 inches or whatever it was. But so anyway, so so here's kind of step by step what I did. So I wrote here, don't panic. I took another piece of batting, and now this is a polyester batting. It's the Hobbs, I'm sorry, not Hobbs. It's the Warm Soft and Bright. And I like to take the 2 layers. So the batting that's underneath, and I don't know if you can see my cursor, but the batting that's underneath, I should ask, everybody can see this, correct?
Right.
Okay. Yep. The batting that's underneath is obviously the one that's already been quilted into the quilt. But before I got to that point, I was, because like I said, it's been years and years and years. So what I decided to do is I have zipper leaders on my machine or on my table and stuff. So I just unzipped my top zipper leader and flipped it back over my take-up roller. So that's where I was able to get into my batting really easily and stuff. So I did take another piece of batting, making sure it was wide enough and long enough, and overlapped it about 3 to 4 inches, maybe a little bit more, so that the new batting, which is the batting on top, is over the older batting, okay? And then from there, I took my scissor and I cut a wide wavy line across, excuse me, across that whole length. And hopefully you can see where my cut line is here. And then I cut through both layers of batting at the same time, because the trick to this is you want to have them being basically the same size. Then I took out the short pieces of the batting. So the batting that was cut in the extra batting, that's gone. And you can see where the 2 cut edges are pretty much up against each other right there. Okay.
So you cut through both layers?
Both layers of the batting at the same time.
The old and the new. Okay.
The old and the new at the same time. Yeah. Then you get rid of, so it would be that top section over here and then that bottom section underneath that I took out. Okay. Then I like to overlap these pieces of batting by about 1/2 inch or so. So I couldn't do much with the top batting. So I kind of scooched that bottom batting or that bottom piece up and put it under the top batting. Okay. Then I flipped them back so I can see my backing fabric. Then I took my handy dandy basting spray. What would we do without our basting spray? And then after I sprayed it, then I took this bottom fabric batting first, laid that down, and then took the top and laid that on top of that. Okay, and that's what it looks like. And then when and again, I like to have what I call the old batting or the batting that's already in the quilt on the top, because I feel that when I'm rolling and I'm quilting, there's less chance of that shifting, where if it's underneath, then things can get a little dicey. So then once I have it like this, then it's just a matter of putting everything back together again. So you can see here on the quilt edges, on the raw edges of the quilt, where my overlap is.
Did you spray that again?
I just sprayed it that one time, but if you need to spray it again a little bit, you can. That's not a problem. And actually, you can also see how I pinned the bottom of my quilt to my leader there. And then that's the left raw edge. And then here's my right raw edge. And you can see I'm practically down at the bottom of the quilt. That's probably about a 2 or 2.5 inch piece of fabric there at the bottom. So I was really close. And you can also see all my stuff that I keep on my table when I'm quilting. And then once this is all together like that, then I just start quilting as normal. And then, yeah, you still have a little area where the batting is overlapped and it might be just a hair thicker, but really in the whole scheme of things, you're really not going to see that because by cutting that curve into the batting, it's not like one straight line across, which could be more noticeable. It kind of spreads it out a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Cindy, I've done a similar kind of thing, except rather than using the spray, I just cut it and didn't overlap it. And I just did a whip stitch along there and it all held together very well.
I was going to say, I have done that too in the past. That's where I learned how to use the basting spray because in my world,
it was faster.
Hand is a 4-letter word. So, okay, so wait a second. So let's go back to here, stop share. Okay, there we are. So I figured I would take the photos and share it with you guys so that if you ever run into that situation, that hopefully that'll help. And I would say I would like any of your normal quilt batting, warm and natural, warm and white, Hobbs 80/20, something like that. Now, you can do something really similar to that if you have like what they call the bonded batting, the bonded polyester. But instead of, and I don't have any of that batting, otherwise I could show you, but where I would overlap the two pieces, just like how I showed you in the pictures. But instead of cutting them, what I would do is I kind of pull at that batting so that you have like half as much batting on each section where it would overlap, and then you put the two of them together, and then with that bonded batting, I'm thinking like mountain mist, that kind of batting type stuff. And then they kind of blend together and they kind of stick together to each other. So you probably don't even need to use any basting spray. But and that's what we used to do way back in the day because that was like the only batting that we had. So hopefully that helps somebody. Then I did an American Hero quilt, and that's what that one looks like. And actually, this was the quilt where I was too short with the batting. So that's that's the front side. Now that you've seen the inside in the other one, and yeah. So I did wavy lines in the sashings,
Right.
and I think it just gives it a little bit more texture. And I just crossed them. I mean,
What do you call the center design?
well, this one here?
Yeah.
That's just my swirls.
Okay.
And
I like
basically
it.
what I did, yeah, actually that turned out a whole lot better than I thought it would. And so I just kind of free-handed it and went from like this corner here and kind of just swirled around to here and come back, and then come back again. And I was kind of using this seam or that point right there kind of as a guide for the depth or the length or whatever you want to call it of that, and just kind of went around and around.
Fits nicely.
Yeah, and what really kind of threw me was how much extra time it took to do these little side guys, because they're only partial, and you just have to do a start and stop in each one of those. But I really do like the effect. And let's see here. And then the back, I think I'm almost liking the back better than I like the front.
That is very nice.
That is pretty.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, it's one of those ones where you start it and you're working on it and you're going, yeah, this is looking nice. This is looking nice. And then as you get into it and as you, excuse me, as you're working on it and you finally get it off the machine and you hold it up and you look at it and you go like, oh man, that looks really nice.